down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm get to the bag. Ayy, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ayy, ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, everybody? We are back. We are not live. This is actually a rare pre-recorded episode out there for the Freight Coach podcast, you guys. But like I say, all of my guests have day jobs, and sometimes I got to catch them later on in the day because, you know, we are actively moving freight. And that is why all of you love tuning into this show day in and day out, is because everybody who is on here is a transportation professional, you guys. And today's guest embodies that. He's been in the industry for a long time. He owns trucks. He's a broker. He's got all of that, and he's building his dream out there, you guys. So I have Mr. Garrett Bowers of Bowers Trucking back on the show today. So Garrett, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Man, Chris, thanks again for having me.
No, dude, absolutely. It's a pleasure. And it makes it all the more special because you and I were just hanging out the other weekend at SPI's rendezvous event up there in Vancouver. And, you know, it was great to finally meet you, you know, and I think like, that's what I love the most about, you know, going out to these shows and, you know, meeting the guests who we've known each other for a few years now, and, you know, we've communicated and stuff like that. And to be able to like shake your hand, look you in the eye and be like, all right, man, it just brings another level to this shit to me.
Yeah, it really does. You know, it's been a while, obviously, since I've been able to hit a trade show or be able to go to even a truck show and whatnot, and just really kind of get myself back out there in the industry and just talk to people. You know, put faces with names, and it just warms everything back up. You know, all of a sudden you start getting that kind of an inside joke going. You get these other things going, and then pretty soon you find out what other people are capable of and how you can, you know, start networking and really just increasing your brand.
Yeah, no, dude, it's the truth, man. And I think like that's what I love the most about probably the trucking industry as a whole is everybody is truly willing to help you for the most part, right? I'm sure there's those outliers that are out there, but for the majority of the people that I've met out there, it is very much like, hey man, how can I help? You know, and I think that when you're out there building a business, like getting around the right support, the supporting cast, we could call them, it's crucial, man, because like, you know this just as well as I do, man. Like there is no straight line to anything. There is no one size fits all, follow this plan, you're going to be successful no matter what. Reality hits you at times. And,
Yes.
you know, I know I'm actually, you know, this is going to come out afterwards, but like I'm going to be doing a podcast tomorrow about, because I just crossed the 5-year mark of being self-employed, and I'm going to put out a show tomorrow based on the lessons that I've learned out there in that time frame, because I want to continue to deliver that. And, you know, I feel like the best way to kind of help others is to show like, hey, this is what I tried. This is what didn't work. And, you know, for me in particular, when it comes down to like developing business and stuff, it is like, you know, building a system has been probably the biggest eye opener of how much of a lack of a system I was operating off of prior to where I am right now. Cause I truly feel like every minute of my day is accounted for, from like building my book of business, reaching out to my current customers, and, you know, trying to grow, because dude, it's so fragile to get a business off the ground and running, and then, have the sustainable revenue coming in every single month to cover your overhead to where you're not at a loss and everything else, man. I mean, it's a lot, dude, as you know.
Oh, totally, man. And I think obviously to live or to start to live and survive in the transportation industry, obviously innately you've got to be a problem solver, right? You've got to be willing to solve problems. And I think that's probably why a lot of the right characters in the industry are able to collaborate and collaborate well, with each other. Kudos for you. You have definitely set the tone for how diverse you can make your own brand. I mean, not only just with the Freight Coast podcast here, but you got Freight Coast Logistics going on. You're building your brand and you're doing those things. And people need to think outside the box too. I mean, sometimes it's not about just moving freight. That can help elevate you in this industry as much as it is, just providing insight, listening, and answering calls on some of the voids in the industry.
Yeah, man. Like, dude, I just look at it as I have accepted that I don't know anything, like I know a little bit, but like I'm a constant student. Like I am always out there looking like, how do I just get a little bit better? Because it's like any sales rep that's out there trying to develop a book of business in any market, but especially right now, there's literally nothing you're going to say on the phone right away that these guys have never heard before. The prospects,
No.
they've heard it all,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I look at it as all right, how do I shave a couple of seconds off of my outreach to increase my outputs? So it's like, how do I, if something's taking me 3 hours, what can I do to shave it down to 2.5 hours so I can free up my time to focus on revenue producing activities, those RPAs out there that I need? Because, when we started our brokerage with SPI, I mean, this is we're like 2.5 years in, right? Like I put it January 1st of 2023 is really when we started. And so, we're 2.5 years in right now. And yeah, we've had some pretty exciting growth over this time frame, but now it's like we need consistency, right? Like we need that 5 loads a day, 6 loads a day, every day. We need that baseline, and we need to minimize the gaps where it's like, hey, if we're busy for 3 to 4 weeks, how do we not have a down week? Maybe it's just it's limited to a down day or a down, couple of days in a week. So it's really kind of closing those gaps. So I'm trying to have that system in place to where it's like all of my time is accounted for when I'm not working on the show or moving freight. I'm actively cold calling new prospects, just trying to get in front of as many people as I possibly can that fit inside of our target market.
So there's so many things like I kind of want to unpack on what you just said. So first of all, yes, establishing systems, huge. Something that I will tell you that I have learned that I think not only do you have to have systems, you need to have systems written down. You need to figure out how you can get so many things that go back to only Chris Jolly knows, right? Or only Garrett Bowers knows. And, how can you put those systems in front of the folks that are working with you and want to help you? Because right or wrong, most of the people that you put in the seat right there, if you're going to put them in the seat, they want to perform, and they want to figure out what it takes to answer that question without tugging on your shirt tail, right? To do those things. Secondly, not only do you mention systems, but then you mentioned friction, right? How are you taking so much time, right, that surrounds yourself over one particular process that's tedious or it requires a lot of detail, only to get, just a little bit of gross profit margin, what I mean, sustained in whatever customer shipment you might have, right? So how can you ease that friction between order and cash and get your sustainable revenue built in there to where it's a little bit more automated, right? And I think obviously proven systems over time is going to get you there. Training, I will tell everybody, like you sit here and say that you don't know anything. That's kind of bullshit. I've talked to you a little bit, but like, I mean, I am the world's worst trainer. I feel like I'm better at like transportation theory and like truthfully trying to put the people and the customer and whatnot together and saying, all right, what do we need to do here? and do those things. But man, when it comes to some of the tedious things with regard to softwares, whether we're talking about McLeod or Revanova or anything like that, my people can walk all over me when it comes to, you know what I mean, really creating the shortcuts and making the softwares work faster, for them, which I think is really a pretty good jab. I mean, I don't know. I consider myself more into sales and problem solving and customer account management than I do really anything else in the business. But it's tough. It's tough because you want to put yourself in that role, and you're going to grind and you're going to cold call and you're going to do those things. But then, Jolly, how are you maybe setting people up then to take that part over for you so that you can concentrate on the other bigger fish?
And that's one thing that, I was talking to a really good friend of mine, and he's built a really successful company. And, he's kind of like my essentially for the next, from now until we're probably 50, 60 million a year in revenue, Garrett, is I'm going to be leading the charge in sales, and we're going to build operations behind us, And, and again, this is all more of just kind of like a framework at the end of the day that we're going to be following off of. But I look at it like, man, my strength is sales. Like, dude, I love getting out there. I love meeting customers. I love learning more about their businesses. I want to, because like truly the only way I'm going to help any of our shippers out is when we're actively moving their freight, and I can see those inconsistencies that are in there of like, hey, let's try this, not that. Have you ever tried this before? I'm noticing these things, and it's tough to kind of get there. And I've just noticed though that ultimately, Garrett, there are very few actual hunters out there. There are a lot of guys.
Right.
There are a lot of people who are really good account managers, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I think I've only met a handful of guys, Garrett, who are not afraid to make 60, 70, 50, 60, 70 cold calls a day, go do site visits and develop something from nothing. A lot of people are really good at taking over an established relationship and growing that. And there's a time and a place for that.
Yes.
But for me, man, like, dude, we need to develop business and we need to get it. And if I'm going to be the one to take those arrows, that's fine with me, man. I'll go out there and I'll do it because like, I love the thrill of the unknown more than anything. Like I love calling somebody and not knowing what's going to be on the other end.
Well, and that in this market right now, especially, I mean, it's sparse, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you, DAT, truck stop, they've all penned it out there right now. And you've got everybody that's kind of like all of our routine shippers might be bracing themselves for what tariffs might do to them, whether it's, the rules this week or the changed rules next week. We don't quite know. So that foundation of business isn't necessarily there. So you have to figure out how you get those people in front of those prospective customers, that closer, that winner, that guy that can take a 5-load customer and get 6 loads out of them. I mean, that particular person. And I agree. I mean, that is a certain dynamic that is pretty rare in the business. I say that account management is its own art as well. Because you've got to keep that business coming back, right? And doing the deep sell. Again, sometimes account management, you start leading into other things that you had no idea this shipper did. And some other things. And I think you've had some success with that. I've got accounts that luckily, by referral or other means necessary, other modes necessary, we've been able to get in there and exercise not just our trucks, but as well the brokerage, which brokerage sales. Jolly, let's talk about that right now. Yeah. What shipper out there says, oh my gosh, you're a brokerage? Please on board right now.
Dude, none. Like I'm trying to pull any and all tricks out of the bag, and tricks is just a statement there, but like anything that I can do to get noticed, and I look at it as like when I call people, again, I'm very direct on why I'm calling them. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. If they're like, what's the purpose of your call? 100% it's a sales call. It's a 100% introductory phone call. Yep. This is what we do. This is who we are. I'm really just trying to introduce ourselves. I have found that has garnered way less resistance than anything. Because I am there's no bullshit. This is who I am. This is what we do. This is why I'm calling. I'm not here to waste your time. I've actually gotten a fast track to the decision maker in the sense of like, hey, I could transfer you, but they're not going to answer, but here's their email. Try that. That'll be your best way of getting it out there. And, again, I'm always about meeting my prospects where they are. Because if they're not going to answer the phone, but if they prefer email, cool, I'm going to email. But I'm going to go a little bit further than just a basic general email. I'll send them up, one first, but my follow-up email, I got this fancy little setup here. I'm going to record a quick 20-second, 30-second video. Hey, it's Chris Jolly. I just wanted to put a face behind all this outreach that's out here. Here's who we are. This is what we do. I understand how everything is right now. In the event you need to change, love an opportunity to speak with you at that time. But again, I'm trying to do little things just to stand out, which I know most people aren't doing.
No, yeah, I mean the video right there, that's pretty solid. I kind of resort to being a little bit funny and sarcastic.
Yeah.
Like I remember my heading on an email just the other day was not another freight provider. I mean, like just instantly, they're gonna open that and go, okay, yeah, all right, this guy's got a sense of humor, maybe I'll read a little bit. But it's important, don't divulge like all of the things that your company can do. I mean, like, again, like you said, they've been sold that for years and years and years. And I mean, like, if you have to sit here and articulate that, maybe you don't truthfully know, what I mean, what you can and can't do. I think it comes down to, and most relationships, just like you said, you're going to get to the best part of the relationship by cutting through the bullshit. What quality relationship have you ever had that relied on vague communication? And just none, And so when you're able to be upfront, honest, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm after. Don't even hesitate to even talk to that account about what it can mean for you. That's my philosophy, right? I mean, maybe let them know how you could, your own financial trajectory could change, or what are some of the goals that you have personally that could actually, if they open their doors, if they gave you the freight, what does it mean? Not just for them, but for you, specifically, as that person. And obviously, if you're going to be the guy that opens up the door, be the guy that runs point on the account, for a while. Because I guarantee you, one thing that people do not want is getting oh, I've got your account open. Here's so-and-so. Yeah. See you later, and I'll never hear from you again.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, man. And I, for me personally, I am, I'm just looking like I always try and sell to people how I want to be sold. And I just like, dude, I don't bullshit me on anything. Like if we're going to talk, like, let's talk, right? Like we can build rapport later, but like in the beginning stages, man, like let's just keep it as business as possible early on, because I just think like a lot of other people, I let them run their mouths. Let them try and be the buddy. Hey, how's blah, 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 blah. What, how's Oklahoma Sooner football going? Like let them.
Oh God, wrong team, Jolly. Wrong team.
Oh, sorry, man. I took a calculated swing and
you did. Oh, big miss.
Are you Oak State then?
Oak State, man. Go Cowboys. Go.
All right. But you see, like, that's what I mean, man. But
it was good. It was good.
To me, though, Garrett, I just want to stay as on task as possible early on, because it's an inconvenience to reach out to anybody for the first time, second time, third time to their day, and it's like, I also look at it as realistically, they got their own, like, there's a high probability they got their own shit going on in their lives.
That's right.
And the last thing they're thinking about is Chris Jolly in that moment. So again, if I'm just going to be trying to be noticed, I want it to be, hey, these guys are at least like, there's a reason why they're reaching out. They're not wasting my time. And I feel like if you switched over too soon to the niceties, how's the weather, or how's this, you're just going to be passed off to the wayside, and they're just going to get bored with you, right?
No, really bored. Yes. Yeah. Really bored. I've got a theory. I'm interested to hear your take on it. Do you feel like it's better to cold call in the morning or the afternoon?
I think it's better to cold call in the morning. Straight up.
Yes, I agree.
I look at it, Garrett, where I want to rip the Band-Aid off for my day. I am a morning person.
There you go. Yes.
I am that disgusting person that at 5 a.m. I am ready to rock. And if you're not a morning person, I'm the last person you want to see at that time. So for me, those are my power hours, right? So it's like when I get in, man, I don't want to waste any time, because I am inherently a lazy person, Garrett. If I give myself as an excuse to not do something, I never will. And for me, it's like I structure out my day where the first 30 minutes, I'm in my office at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time every single day. By 7 a.m., I'm dialing. I do not wait, and I'm out there and I'm making those calls, and I'm going to get 35 calls in every day before my live show. I'm going to get 35 dials in, and I'm going to rock that out because I know that there is a higher probability that my prospects' days haven't been completely torpedoed by that point.
That's it.
Um, and I would rather reach out to them then. Again, don't get me wrong. There is no right or wrong time to ruin somebody's day with a cold call. So, but
Well,
me personally, I think that people are in way better moods earlier in the day than they are
I agree with
later in the
that.
day.
I agree with that. Especially if you rely on the substance like I do called caffeine,
Yeah.
which and you know people that work here know that I am a Red Bull fanatic,
Okay.
and so if I am just on that sugar-free Red Bull high just for a little bit, you can really start to hear a pitch just come out of my mouth instantly, like which is typically the time like. And I used to make this mistake. I'm like, okay, I need to track and trace. I need to, you know, be an account manager. I need to, you know what I mean, make sure that people know where their freight is first thing in the morning, right? Which that's when you're getting those questions,
Yeah.
okay? But if you think about it, that's also when your customer is reaching out to freight people. So that is when your customer has freight on their mind. And it's always in the mornings, right? We all know that, you know, typically from 7 a.m. till about 10:30, 11 a.m., everybody is tracking and tracing. They want to know, is this on the way? Has this delivered? Is this picking up? Who's my driver? You know what I mean? You're getting all those questions. That was a huge transition I think I made over the last couple of years ago. Wait, this is when my customer has freight on their mind.
Mhm.
This is when I need to approach my customer about freight.
Yeah. Yeah, I look at it also as this, man. When people get back from lunch, most of the time they're already like, "All right, I got 3 hours left, man. I'm
Yes, some people are. Yeah.
Yeah, they got that the shades pulled down in their office, man.
Yeah.
They're not taking a call unless it's their boss or somebody they need to talk to at that time. And
Yeah.
but again, rest assured, anybody out there who's listening to this, there is no perfect time. There is no perfect day.
No. No.
I definitely have some data on like the friendliness level of certain people when you reach out for days of the week and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
But again, I don't ever want to deter anybody because if you're in a position like I'm in, like I can't like I look at it like this, Garrett. I don't care about port congestion. I don't care about tariffs. I don't care about the market being what it is. I got a family to feed. And if I
Yeah.
sit back and look for a reason to not do something, I won't do it. And then I will be bankrupt. I will lose my home and I will be homeless. So it's like I could sit there and look at that and take that as a reason to not do it, which I know a lot of people out there do. A lot of people see tariffs and uncertainties in business and they're like, oh, I'm going to take a play off here. And then they fail to adjust, they fail to pivot. And then they wake up in a year from now and they're like, why don't I have any customers? Why is all my freight down? Why is everything down? It's because you've been sitting on your hands for the last fucking year.
There
And
you
you
go.
can't do that, right? Like I would rather like get told no 70 times a day, every single day, and get that one yes, than sit back and wait and then have to look my wife in the eye and be like, hey babe, I didn't feel like selling this week. We're not able to eat dinner now. You know what I mean? Like screw that.
Yes, I totally understand, man. So you mentioned about pivoting. 20 what are we talking there? Latter part of 22, all the way to basically now. We've seen like a whole bunch of contraction in the
Yeah.
market, right? Margins compressed. We've seen some M&A activities from some of the big freight players. We're seeing a great deal of I don't want to say like economic uncertainty.
Mhm.
I think, you know, probably even more so than the pandemic in some cases. You know, what are you thinking here? I mean, is capacity going to tighten up? What's the adjustment that you're willing to forecast?
I mean, I look at it I think that there's a lot kind of up in the air right now. I think that with the FMCSA depending on how much they push what the state of Arkansas just put into effect there with the English proficiency. Depending on how aggressive they want to get with that, I think that could cause capacity to evaporate.
What timing with that too? I mean, we got the big road check next week?
Yeah, next week or 2 weeks from now. I think it's like around the 19th or something like that. And
yeah, maybe it's 2 weeks. Yeah, that's right.
But dude, I look at it as I think that there's a lot of businesses out there that are hanging on by a thread right now. I truly feel that way. I think that any change out there in the market that tightens capacity at all, even a sliver, I think could push a lot of businesses over the edge. And I think like that bullwhip effect, because dude, I look at it like at this point, Garrett, I'm willing to go on record in saying like I think we're all going to leave on a Friday afternoon. It's going to be a normal week, how it's been the last couple of years. And then we're going to walk in Monday and there's going to be fucking nothing. And then it's going to be tight capacity. There's going to be shipments sitting on docks. Shippers are going to be like, we need more providers. And I truly feel like at this point, that's the only logical thing that could happen.
And that it kind of brings a little bit of uncertainty too. I don't know how many RFPs you filled out in the first quarter, but it seemed like for me, maybe the latter part of February, but like March, I was inundated with RFPs. April got thrown a few more RFPs. Don't get me wrong, customers, thank you for those.
Yeah,
but
no,
like you also want to sit here and go, I mean, our tender rejection rate's about to just, explode because of some of these enforcement acts. And I don't know. I don't think that it's obviously not going to solve the driver count problem, here domestically, whether that's good or bad, in a lot of respects, for capacity providers. I think, ourselves, all I could share is ourselves. So like at the end of 2022, we were running close to 60 trucks. Today we have 38. I mean, if that gives you any kind of indication on, just kind of the backsliding, the adjustment, what we have done to obviously not only try to respond to operating costs and the other things that have inflated, over this time, but then answer to the lack of opportunity, I'm going to say, for to chase larger margins or to figure out ways to grow. It's really going to be interesting because I could sit here and tell you that, yeah, I'd like to sell, Chris, a few more trucks, but what is this going to do to the used truck market if all of these trucks all of a sudden start getting empty? So you got to really, and there's a lot of creditors out there, banks and other things like that are holding the bag, also wondering what this is going to do, in the particular industry. I say all that to say, we take all these CDLs and we make them, no longer, I'm going to say no longer needed, but they're obviously no longer valid, right?
Yeah.
Are we removing, is that really responding to public safety? Are those drivers necessarily, less safe than other drivers? I think the biggest thing is, we have some bad actors, some bad capacity providers in the industry that are running 2 or 3 different DOT numbers, right? And they're running some of these people ragged, and they're doing those things. And I think it's really hard for legitimate companies to respond to that, especially if they are subject at all to the freight markets and spot trends and other things like that. Every single shipper is going to look at what they should be paying for freight. If they don't, they're obviously not acting in their own best interest, But I'm really hesitant to say that some of these RFPs that were filled out here in the first quarter are going to hold up by the time Q3, Q4 rolls around.
I'm right there with you, man. I think 2025, when we look back at it in a couple of years, might come out as it's either going to be, I can't believe it lasted all of 2025,
right?
Or it's going to be, holy shit, did it get wild?
Right.
During, 2025.
It could be a light switch, man. I mean, we've got, so many drivers that are out there that drove during the pandemic. They saw, March transitioned into April, and that was like a light switch when things just fell off. you better book your spot freight for $1 a mile or you're getting hung up on.
Yeah.
I mean, we all live through it as capacity providers, and now it could definitely be the other way around, but is that necessarily good, bad? Chris, I don't know. I think transportation, what's really great about it is it just touches so many different industries and it affects so many different things. And I'm really excited to see what 2025 is going to bring. But again, apprehensive in the sense that we just don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, man. But, I also look at it as, at the end of the day, as a business owner, this is just going to be another thing that you're going to have to overcome. I look back over these last 5 years now, and it's been just one thing after another. But I think ultimately, like when you decide to go out on your own, this is literally what you're signing up for, and it's, there's going to be tough decisions that you're going to have to make. I mean, you had mentioned that you went from, 60 trucks down and you guys are down to 38 right now. As a leader of an organization, Garrett, how did you approach that? As because there's tough decisions that you have to make at any given time out there. What led you to be like, all right, we have to make this decision? And then what are some of those pivotal changes that you've made to keep the lights on here over these last couple of years when you see, it's every day now, there's another headline of another company that went under and more drivers got laid off and this brokerage closed and everything else?
Man, so humility has definitely entered my vocabulary. You go from, assumingly making, or to what I felt, all the right decisions between 2016 and about 2022 to just getting the other side of the market slammed in your face. You realize that, when the margins compress, the cash flow starts to slide, and you've got to let some good people go.
Mhm.
You've got to make some harsh decisions. You've got to figure out how the brand, will survive, and then of course you figure out who are those people that are left, and who are you going to fight for? Who are those? What are those services? What are those customers? And what are those things that you've got to hold on to, that you got to know that you can survive with. I can tell you that we as a fleet, we became extremely much more efficient with every one of our moves, so much more efficient than I think we were in a lot of respects, because we were getting lazy, right? We didn't have the processes in place to take advantage of when the market was just wild and on fire, right? And there's several ways that I think people can respond, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm necessarily full of the right answers, but I can tell you, for me personally, I had a really great brokerage that I owned for a while, that I fell on the sword of trying to save the asset company. And why did I do that, Chris? This is my grandfather's company. I'm third generation. The company is nothing like it was whenever my grandpa was around. I mean, it was a rock sand gravel company. As we kind of discussed in the first podcast that you and I had together. But trying to figure out what it's going to take, because I've got so many good drivers and families that depend on those things. And then of course, is our sales momentum as good if Bowers doesn't have trucks? So I supplemented the balance sheet of what once was a good brokerage to save that trucking company. We were able to save the trucking company, and then I was able to transition over, work out an agreement with SPI Logistics. I want to thank you, obviously, for that referral in that regard, because I'd looked at a lot of different agency models, and it was something that just felt like a better fit. Not only was the margin, did it make sense for the margin split, but I think the technology was just what blew me away in the demo. As that brokerage that I said that we were, the technology that we have access to now, Chris, it would have taken me a decade to develop.
Yeah.
On my own, bootstrapping it on my own. To have those things just laid out and put forth, you know, Chris, you and I are able to transactionally go to, any size of shipper and swing a $200 million stick at them to show them what the resources are, what the capabilities are, what the true level of technology and advancement that has taken place, in our industry over the last 15 years, what it can do. And, we were in competition on a shipment, I think a couple Saturdays ago, with some other smaller providers, and we were able to exercise that. And we showed the customer the difference. Not only did we come under budget, but we were able to, respond that much quicker. Making those market pivots like this, I think, has allowed us to see daylight at the end of the tunnel. Both of us talked about we don't know when that daylight really comes, but I'm going to tell you that I think it flickered, and I think that it gave my team so much more breathing room, so much more confidence than what we were doing before, because they can actually get out there and play offense again. And that's what's important, right? Just the morale. I feel sorry for you, and I'm sure there's a lot of capacity providers listening to me right now that have had to make those harsh cuts, or they're cutting back on these particular things right now, or maybe they've even had to renegotiate, contractor wages and other things like that. Their percentages. I mean, who knows what that looked like, right? To try to get that cash flow back into the business to save it as a whole. But I can tell you that small adjustments, proven processes, getting things on paper, making sure that you have the right Johnnies and Joes and, Janes and Sallys with you that know exactly what the mission is, and so crucial, is so important. Because, in the end, a company is just people. And, I had a question asked to me, a long time ago, whenever I kind of started, was, would you rather have the best customers in the world? Would you rather have the best people in the world? The best employees in the world? It's like, man, you put the best employees in the world together, and I mean, there's not a customer out there you can't go get. You can have some great customers and whatnot, but I mean, if you're subject to, these certain things, or, these volatilities in the market that we've all experienced right now, it hasn't been me. It hasn't been any one decision or anything that I've made, Chris. It's been the conglomeration of people out here that have believed in what we can do, that I think are still keeping us in business today.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up a lot of great points there. It's easy in today's day and age, Garrett, for people to go out on social media and pound their chest about how great they are in business and how nothing, like, they just seemingly are always winning, right? Like, you scroll through any social media site right now, all you see is a highlight reel out there. And it makes you think, what am I doing wrong? And that's one of those things that was always in my head, is I'm like sitting there and I'm like, man, I'm like, in my opinion, I'm the best freight broker in North America, and you're not going to convince me any differently. And I would expect every other high performing individual out there to share that exact same sentiment about themselves, And if you don't, like, you got to work on that shit, right? But I was like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm experiencing these things in my business, and I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong here? And then, what I have come to realize, though, is I'm like, 99% of this people you see on social media are full of shit. For starters, they're all lying about something, especially if they're only, let me rephrase that, if they're only posting about how much money they're making and how great they are,
it's
probably all of the thought.
Or that they're growing. If I see any transportation provider is talking about that they've been growing the last, 12 to 16 months, I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Well, what?
It's one of those things where I look at it as, like, what you just brought up there, Garrett, like that's the stuff that people need to hear, right? They also need to know, like, there are alternatives out there if you feel like, maybe you're in a pinch, because things didn't go the way that you seem, because everybody starts their businesses, Garrett, and they think I'm going to be a millionaire within 6 months. Everything's going to be great. I'm going to have a mansion. I'm going to have supercars. I'm going to have all of this stuff. And then reality inevitably hits you. And, and this is like, a lot of the situations that I'm in is, and when I talk about a lot of stuff on all of my podcasts, is that I'm like, you guys, it's a lot different when you're on the sidelines collecting a salary as opposed to when you're making a decision and you're like, if I'm wrong, I fucking lose everything.
That's it.
There's a different stress that comes along with that when you're out there trying to make things happen. And, going through that though, I feel like this is what is going to make you sustainable for the next 50 years. This is what's going to keep Bowers Trucking for the next 50 years, is going through these situations. And if there's one lesson I've learned over these last 5 years is adversity is actually there to help you in business. It's actually there to realign you and to help you get prepared to take things to that next level. And, you brought up, like with SPI and having that tech infrastructure in place that would have taken you 10 years to bootstrap yourself. And, you brought up something about being on all offense. And that's the way that I approach this. Like with my operation is like, dude, I don't have to worry about a lot of stuff right now. I can focus on being on offense. I can focus on selling. I don't have to look at how am I going to pay my insurance premium this month? I don't have to look at how am I going to afford to pay for my TMS this month, right? Because that's all in that, like SPI, in my opinion, is an investor in me. And they'll tell me the opposite, because they're a phenomenal organization. But like, dude, they're business partners of mine. They're out there helping me play offense at a high level to pack that punch, because I have that confidence, Garrett, that there is, like you had mentioned, there is not one shipper in North America that I could get set up with that I would have to ask myself, can I afford to actually move their freight, because it costs $5,000 a month in EDI just to process all their tenders that come through.
Yeah. That was another thing. Yeah. Well, we did get an EDI award, and I was comparing the cost with our current TMS McLeod, which kind of charges you to do everything, every twist and turn. And then, SPI says, yeah, bring those awards over here and it's free. It's wow, so we can get systems talking, back and forth with these other transportation management firms, and, bam, auto tenders. And like we talked about before, we're releasing friction, and not having to extend to capital and hoping that you're going to get enough awards later on to establish a real ROI for that deal. And, what does that business truly cost?
Yeah.
When you get awarded. And, I say all that to say, I think any good business person has the ability to look down the road a little bit further than I have in years past. I think what this has shown me is where the vulnerabilities lie and what I want to do and what I want my balance sheet to look like ever before we, do take on other risks and other, chase other prospective gains. Cash is king and cash flow is the emperor. When SPI is able to provide such a support around their agents to where they treat their agents like customers, it's an awesome model, because we are the ones that go out there and exercise what we're good at to be able to, get that cash flow coming in, not just for us, not just for our businesses, but as well for them. And I think it's just a really important thing to look at, especially if anybody's considering, becoming an agent or figuring out some type of investment opportunity to allow them to do so.
Do you think, as we're kind of wrapping things up, Garrett, do you think that you are going to be more risk averse making business decisions moving forward? Do you feel like maybe I'm not going to say that you made the wrong decisions in certain aspects, but do you think now with all of this, but I mean more like with all of this experience, do you think you're going to look at expansion in a lot different light, in a lot
different light? I think it's good. I think it's important to be, as a service provider, to be good at a certain number of things and not all the things, right? I used to pride myself on being able to do just so many different modes and types and other things like that. And so that's definitely something you want to focus on, because each one of those modes can be, another investment, another thing, right? More cash out. I think that I'm going to be definitely more picky and critical of the people that we bring on, that we decide to train and really put our time and our investment and other things into. And then I think also more importantly, we need to make sure that we're exercising business to the right customers and the right clientele. People that value quality of transportation and other things like that, and not just chasing numbers. Yeah. While the SPI strategy does allow you, to quote freight and numbers and all those things with the best of them, the fact of the matter is we all have a certain level of operating cost and other things like that we have to ascertain, that we have to harvest to be able to establish, true ROI. And I think as far as trucks are concerned, and some of those things, the liabilities and the other aspects that go along with that. I mean, you're talking to a guy that just had a 30% increase on his fleet, and really, I mean, one of the few tokens that I could get away from that insurance renewal was that we traveled so many miles in Texas. Well, as an Oklahoma, service provider, we have to travel into Texas, right? But hell, Texas is the #1 state now for uninsured motorists. Yeah. And, and so if I package all of those things that I just said, yeah, risk averse is definitely a certain way that I would term it, but I would tell you that growth just has to make more sense now. I just turned 40 last year, and if you would have talked to me when I was, 30, I would have had a way different picture of what I would be doing or who I would be at 40. The fact of the matter is I'm not there, but I see how to get there, and I see how to get there more clearly, I think, through some of the years right here that we've been through.
Man, I love that. I can't add anything onto that, Garrett. I just appreciate your transparency with all of this. And, for me, it's like, this is why I love doing this show, because, I love learning from others, and I love helping. Like, this show is going to help a lot of people, man, because ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, more times than not, I felt lost in my life, right? Let alone in my entrepreneurship journey here these last 5 years, I've felt lost. And when, and I think this is one of the greatest assets of this show is it's relatable to a lot of people, and it makes them not feel like they're on an island with stuff. And I just appreciate you sharing everything today, man. But how does anybody reach out to you, man? How does anybody connect with you, find out more about what you got going on?
Yeah, well, please, I mean, if you can, reach out via LinkedIn, Garrett at bowerstrucks.com, GARRETT. Just, shoot me an email, whatever. I love talking freight. And I think if these years have taught me anything, I mean, it is that this industry is my passion, and I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. No matter what, I mean, it's just, we're going to figure it out. We're going to do what we can to get around it and solve the problem. So, if anybody wants to take a look at our website, bowerstrucks.com. And then, of course, if anybody wants to talk to me about the SPI partnership, I'd be greatly open to talking about it, and, maybe some things that somebody might consider if they're considering some of the same moves.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. Garrett, thank you so much. And that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, because Garrett just laid out a masterclass for you all, and you haven't ranked the show yet on iTunes and Spotify, rank it, because if you saw value, that's how your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm get to the back. Ayy, got the foot on the gas, pedal to to the metal when the lane moving fast.